Hermon Mehari doesn't remember exactly why he chose to play the trumpet as a 7th grader joining the band at Thomas Jefferson Middle School. He jokes that he probably picked it because he could make some sort of sound come out of it. With a laugh, he says that maybe someday he'll come up with some inspiring anecdote about how he and the trumpet came to be. But for now, we'll just settle on that it was fate. His discovery of jazz trumpet, which will one day become his musical niche, passion, and career, is much more clear. In the summer before 8th grade, Hermon took a summer enrichment class on improvisation, one of the strongest components of jazz. The power of improv was not lost on the middle schooler.
And this improvisation class, and wow, you can create music in the moment. It's so personal and beautiful.
As his interest in jazz music deepened, 8th grade Hermon wanted to hear more. He went to the jazz section of Hastings Entertainment Superstore, formerly on Missouri Boulevard, and found the numerous albums by jazz icon Miles Davis. Knowing Miles Davis played trumpet, Hermon picked one of his albums at random. The album was Kind of Blue, which is known as one of the most important jazz albums of all time.
So I kind of just happened to stumble upon this, and then I listened to it over and over again. So this is amazing. From then on, it's like I wanted to try to do what he was doing, which is, improvise and play incredible music.
Today, Hermon lives in Paris. When a global pandemic isn't putting gatherings on pause, he's playing his music and collaborating with other musicians throughout the city and France. However, the COVID-19 pandemic did give Hermon the opportunity, through an abundance of time, the opportunity to create his sophomore album, A Change for the Dreamlike. Hermon was in southwest France, staying in a friend of a friend's house on a beautiful river valley when the country went into its first confinement period throughout March and April.
Maybe the most beautiful thing about this album, in my opinion, is that it was totally unexpected. But then again, what happened this last year was unexpected, at least to the precedent of to how big it became, right?
In his new album, Hermon takes a more personal tone. As described on his website, the songs are played like personal journal entries, versions and visions of wishes, fantasies, and memories. Together, they create a kind of modern mixtape of dreams in every sense of the word, in which the trumpet is a vulnerable presence. As a musician, the pandemic came with certain unknowns for Hermon. How long was it going to last? Should he schedule gigs? Are his gigs going to even happen? He says there were too many variables to consider. He was thankful for what he had, a safe place to live and stay during an uncertain time, as his heart went out to those who were suffering. The pandemic put him in a personal state of mind.
Then all I could do was kind of reflect on the past and also be in the moment. And so in this time, I was doing a lot of reflecting, and I was really kind of in the moment. I was able to think through things pretty clearly. I had a lot of clarity, and in this way, I was hearing some music clearly, but I was also just reflecting on my heritage, my dad's story, on the world at large. I have a piece called "Let's Try This Again," for instance. It's the second piece, and it's kind of about how we just keep this, like in the world. The world keeps repeating itself, right? It's like it doesn't know its own history, and we see cycles of the same thing over and over again, and it usually just happens because we don't know our own history, or we ignore it. And so I'm thinking about all these things, right? A lot of different things. I went directly into the music, which is not something I've really ever done before in my music. So that's a long story short, is why it's more personal. And that's how my mind was put in a personal state, just because of this situation.
Hermon says most people's favorite song on the album is A Conversation with My Uncle. For a long time, Hermon wanted to record his father telling his story of being a refugee. His parents are from Eritrea, an Eastern African country. They came to the U.S. as refugees of the war between Eritrea and Ethiopia in the 1980s. Unfortunately, Hermon's father passed away before he could ever record his father's story. So, Hermon went to his uncle to tell the story and recorded it while in a barn in southwest France. In the song, Hermon plays the trumpet along to his uncle's voice, making his music part of the conversation.
And then I didn't necessarily I knew I wanted to incorporate the story musically somehow. That's all I knew. And then I was listening to it. I said, oh wow, there's music in the way he speaks. There's music there. And I came up with this little melodic line, and I just kind of superimposed them together. So his voice over this, and what I did was play trumpet along to his voice.
Hermon says the song can be considered an activist piece because it breaks down misconceptions about refugees while also serving as a gateway to understanding.
You know, because there's a lot of anti-refugee rhetoric, for instance, in the world, and this piece could almost be seen as an activist piece, right? Like it's a song, it's an activist song, right? Like this is the story of the refugee. It's not just the story of my dad as a refugee; it's the story of the refugee. It's the same. You know, they face hardships. You know, my dad was crossing the desert on a camel by night because he'd be shot during the day. You know, he had to hire a guide who, many of the guides who you hire, you have to hire a guide, otherwise you're going to be lost. Some of them could just take your money and leave you in the middle of the desert. Then you end up in a whole different country, you know, where you don't know the language. The religion's completely different. And, you know, you have to make your way out of this country. He had to get himself to Europe eventually. He had to find a fake passport. I mean, some of the stuff sounds like stuff from the movies, right? Like it seems so unreal that someone actually lived this thing. And then, you know, they're leaving behind this family, so much family, and it's unreal. That's why it's an activist piece, right? Because it's like, okay, someone who might have certain notions of what a refugee is or what it's like. You know, like the music serves as a gateway to understanding, right? Say, oh wow, someone went through this. Wow, you know.
Among the many influential people and experiences in his life, Hermon attributes his success, first and foremost, to his parents.
I was always a good student. I was doing really well. I was like, you know, straight A's, whatever. And for a lot of immigrants, families, you know, they usually push their kids to do really well in school, so they become doctors, lawyers, all that kind of stuff, engineers. But I was a black sheep in the sense that I did well in school and I could have easily done other things, no question. But I insisted on doing music, and they supported me in that. You know, as hard as it was for them, it became less hard, obviously, as they saw me become more successful. But I had the support of my parents, regardless. You know, they bought me my instruments. They took me to lessons. I loved what I was doing, and I poured everything into it. I worked hard. I still work hard, actually. It's not like it's done, but to me, since I love it, it's not really work. But I practiced every day. I was practicing every day. I still practice every day. I would say I attribute a lot of that to my success to the fact that I was working very hard.
For anyone wanting to pursue a music career, Hermon says his advice is to, quote, "Go for what you want to do. Don't be afraid. Just do it. Life is too short to have regrets. You should just go for it."
This might counteract what I said, but even if I didn't have the support of my parents, I would have found a way to do it because I was such in love with it, you know. You know, I even had people like I had relatives saying, "Well, maybe you should do a second degree," or you know, like this kind of stuff. And no, this is what I'm doing, and I believed in it, and I kept doing it, and I worked hard and hard and hard. It was not magic, and now I have an amazingly blessed life. Like I'm traveling all the time. I'm seeing different parts of the world. I'm seeing little, not even like you think, okay, Italy, yeah, you see Rome, you see Milan or Venice. That's amazing in itself. But what's more amazing is like I'm visiting like little tiny towns in between these places that no one ever thinks to visit, because I'm going there so often. I'm playing these little festivals here and there. I'm going to countries I never imagined I would have visited. You know, I'm creating art. I'm doing this. I'm just living this life that came through just me being very devoted to this kind of not like I wasn't willing to bend my vision in a sense. I felt I stuck strongly to it.